Welcome to another episode of Pod for Good, a podcast where we learn from those doing good in Tulsa, why they care, and what we can do. And most importantly, what you can do. I said most importantly twice because it's
doubly important. Great intro.
It's doubly important. Pod for Good is produced and edited by Rant9 Productions and can be found anywhere you get your podcasts. I am your chief philanthropod, Jesse Ulrich.
I'm your vice admiral philanthropod, Chris Miller.
And today we talk to Dr. View, the executive producer of Fire in Little Africa.
Talk to Dr. View about FILA, Fire in Little Africa, white supremacy and the Capitol insurrection, and of course his PhD dissertation and album.
Now, this episode, like many Pod for Good episodes, gets into Tulsa's racial history, and because of its closeness to the Capitol insurrection, you might hear the three of us be a little more fired up than we normally are about white supremacy. So prepare yourselves for that and enjoy this interview. Welcome to another episode of Pod for Good. I am your chief philanthropod, Jesse Ulrich.
And I'm your vice admiral philanthropod, Chris Miller.
And today our guest is Dr. View, aka Dr. Stevie Johnson, one of the executive producers of the Fire in Little Africa multimedia project. Dr. View, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
I feel like I'm feeling better than both of you who are currently fasting for reasons. So.
Absolutely. What's this anthro? What's it called?
Philanthropod. That was our joke that Chris and I came up with in our first episode about what we were, because we are podcasters for philanthropy.
You need to coin that. You need to trademark it. You need to do all that. I'm being so serious right now.
I have an intern starting next week. That intern is definitely going to get some merch, and Philanthropod's going to be on there. So
absolutely,
keep a lookout for that on our website somewhere in the future. Dr. View, for people who don't know, tell people what the Fire in Little Africa project is.
I think it's evolved over time. I think it started out as a multimedia project that consists of an album, a documentary, curriculum, and podcasts, and it's evolved to more so a movement. Obviously, with the pandemic and certain things that have happened both locally and nationally. For example, Trump coming to Tulsa. I think Fire in Little Africa and just how we've viewed ourselves and how we see how we can truly be a beacon of hope for Tulsa, but also for the nation and around the world. I think that truly epitomized what FILA is. And so obviously it was a project where we galvanized 60 artists, primarily from Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and Lawton. And we recorded the project in March 2020. And I always give people context. The Oklahoma City Thunder were playing the Utah Jazz that Tuesday night, and Rudy Gobert came down with COVID. And we were planning to start recording on that Thursday. So I got a call from my boss, Steve Higgins. Shout out Steve Higgins. And he was like, "Are we still doing this?" And I was like, "Steve, if we do not do it this weekend, Fire in Little Africa will not exist." And lo and behold, the world shut down right after the weekend we recorded. So yeah, it's just been really dope to see. We recorded over 143 songs in 5 days. And we actually developed the model out of J. Cole has a label, Dreamville. They have a compilation album, Revenge of the Dreamers, that came out in 2019. And I was actually finishing my dissertation, and I saw the documentary on YouTube. It's like 30 minutes. And I was just amazed that J. Cole talked about, I never want to regret not being able to work with another artist. And so the first two Revenge of the Dreamers are mainly the artists on the label. And then the third one was they invited artists from around the world, and they recorded, I think, 300 songs in 10 days. And I was writing my dissertation, watching the documentary, and I was like, man, if I ever get a chance to do that, it would be awesome. And lo and behold, here we are. Fire in Little Africa is a commemorative project. It is for the ancestors. It is for the artists. It is for those who feel marginalized and oppressed. It's a conversation to Black people about loving themselves. It's about truly holding people accountable, holding everyone's feet to the fire. That's what we lead with when Fire in Little Africa. How do we put everyone's feet to the fire, from myself as an executive producer to the artists to our sponsors to whoever? How do we make sure we hold everyone accountable? So yeah, Fire in Little Africa is a movement and truly something that will speak to the world and to other Black Wall Streets across the world.
It seems like right now, Black Wall Street Greenwood is having kind of a bit of a pop culture renaissance, a little bit, both nationally and locally. But it feels like, at least nationally, whether you're talking about what we've seen on a couple of HBO shows or otherwise, it's been other people outside of Tulsa telling the story, telling the narrative. So, how important for you was it to have people from Tulsa connected to Tulsa, telling the story?
It's absolutely vital. I knew this was going to happen. I obviously, like anything that's big, there's capitalism is probably right behind the door, and so it's always been the conversation that we're the localized artists, the culture, and we also reflect, like, we are the new Black Wall Street. We are our ancestors' dreams. It's always been vital to get it right. We even actually tried to reach out to some of those individuals to say, like, hey, like, we were here and we wanted to support what you're doing to highlight our work, but it hasn't been the case. We're not really worried about it. We're grateful for what they're doing, but we're very, very adamant about making sure that we're telling the story on our terms. And we even did a lot of research prior to recording. A lot of the artists that we selected were like, hey, like, I'm grateful for the opportunity, but like, I don't know anything about Black Wall Street. And the ability for us to connect with folks with the Oklahoma Historical Society and provide information to artists about just not only Black Wall Street, but Oklahoma history, like pre-statehood to Greenwood blossoming in the early 1900s to urban renewal to all these different elements that have really affected the Greenwood community. And so we just are very intentional about how do we keep this localized community organization together in a way to like truly make ourselves feel proud about what we're giving to ourselves, to this community, but also to our ancestors. So it's definitely vital. And we also know, and I'll give another example. Charlie Wilson was on The Breakfast Club a few months back, and Charlamagne the God was saying like, hey, like, I feel like Watchmen and other shows have tried to play with the idea, but I feel like no one has really told the story like the way it needs to be told. And in that moment, I knew that he was talking exactly about Fire in Little Africa. They didn't mention the name, they didn't know anything about it, but in that moment, I was like, we're filling the void, and we're going to be able to tell the story in a way that people have heard the stories on Lovecraft Country or Watchmen, but there's certain particular elements of the story that we're telling that it's not being addressed in those particular mediums for sure.
Just to make sure that I'm correct in this, the title Fire in Little Africa comes from the cards that white people sold after the race massacre with a picture of, I'm not sure which building it is burning, but it said Fire in Little Africa. Am I correct in that?
That is accurate. That is accurate. And actually, the font that you see in there is the font that we currently have for Fire in Little Africa. It's traumatizing, but yet we're trying to. It's been really difficult. The pandemic, the racial epidemic that I see happening in America. To be Black in America, it truly is very difficult. And putting this project together while seeing all these things happen, like, it's a lot. And even me, like, going to therapy has really saved my life. So those things actually were written, and it's unfortunate, but those are things that we're definitely going to talk about in this project.
No, yeah, definitely the selling of cards commemorating it in a good way is one of the most upsetting things that you learn in this process, because it's not, you would believe that the white Telsons who did this would be ashamed afterwards, and they weren't. They were the opposite. And
absolutely,
that's where I'm a cultural historian by academic training, and so I am fascinated by the idea of using culture in general to not only tell the story, but sort of elaborate on the feelings and the sense of it, because 100 years is a long time, and human beings are not good at thinking about distance in time and how both short a time 100 years is and also how long 100 years is.
Yeah, always hearing the "you should get over it" narrative is always a part of it, but I think it's always beg the question, like, why would you say to get over it when the Black dollar was circulating 19 times before it left the community, and that people were actually flourishing? Like, the ramifications that we see when, Tulsa was on the first 48, or like certain violence that was happening, it's truly because of what happened in 1921. Black people were flourishing. Like people were not bothering people or anyone. They were just in their own little bubble, and yet their lives were taken. And another thing I have to mention, like I live in North Tulsa. My backyard is my favorite place, but yet I recognize that the land that I occupy is filled with blood. And I don't take that for granted. I don't take that like very lightly, that I occupy a space that these ancestors are allowing me to be a part of, and like really helping me to understand like this is not about you. This is not about the artists on this project. Yeah, they will get their shine, their credit, but this is about you getting our story correct, and giving us the love that we deserve. So like this is a very spiritual, ancestral body of work that we're really trying to liberate people for sure.
Chris and I both use this podcast as our therapy. And also to the people who say get over it, I would like to point those people to what happened at the Capitol last week, because those are usually the same people who are telling you to get over it. So I say to them,
Absolutely.
Get over it.
Listen, time clearly doesn't matter, because within like a day of that happening, they were saying we should get over it and unify. So I don't think it's
What?
really about the
You
amount
think it's
of
about
time.
something else?
I think it's just about yeah.
Absolutely.
So I know obviously it's very important for you to give this the respect and emotional heft that it deserves. How do you also make sure that it's good music? How do you make sure that the music and the art is good as well as capturing the subject?
Steph Simon is another exec on this project, as well as Saint Dominic. And, during the information sessions that we had prior to us going into the recording studio, that was the thing. Is like, this can't be corny. Like, this can't be just, oh, in 1921, this is what happened. And so it's just like, if it doesn't jam, like it's not gonna go. I think we have a great group of folks whose egos are out of the way and are just like, no, this is not going to work. Like 10, 12-year-old kid is not going to listen to this. And this is why. Or someone who is in their early 50s, like they're going to listen to this song compared to this song. So it is a delicate balance. I would call it a organized harmony, just really just like trying to put the pieces together. And I think more than anything, we're just allowing the story to kind of like tell us where we need to go. And obviously with the production piece, like we're going to make sure that it sounds like with great quality. But yeah, for the most part, we're just like, if it doesn't jam, like it's not going on the album. And that's really been the fun part of just taking it from 143 songs, and now we're down to 21 that will be on the album. It's just been a really dope experience to see all the producers and the artists who are part of that team to really knock it down and justify why we needed certain records, and maneuvering people. Hey, I love this verse, but I would prefer it to be on this song. So it's been a real collaborative project of putting it all together.
So there's not one like 20-minute long Rapper's Delight-esque version of the retelling of the Race Massacre? Okay, good. Just making sure. Just making sure. Not that I wouldn't actually be interested in said track, but I don't think it would have the cultural cachet that we are looking for in this.
They would look at us and be like, man, who are these guys? They do not deserve this opportunity.
Oh, man.
But yeah.
From the time you started recording this to now, like America has gone through even more things than just the pandemic. There's been a string of killing of innocent Black Americans by the police. There's been a very racially tinged election we just went through. There was the insurrection that we just experienced. And I feel like, I don't know if it's a combination of social media, the fact that everyone's stuck in their homes or should be stuck in their homes, or if there's been an even more like polemic break between the two Americas. But I feel like there is a sort of awakening of the idea that a majority of Americans have not realized until recently that there are systemic things in society that benefit them, and they haven't realized it until now. I hate asking all of our guests who are Black, like how they feel about it as a Black person, because
Sure.
I'm going to ask anyway.
You got to do your due diligence.
Yes.
Yeah. I mentioned earlier that therapy has really like saved me, because what I've been preparing for, what I prepared for in 2020, for 2021, is just being present in the moment. I'm a very vision is like one of the biggest strengths that I have. I can just kind of predict like where I need to go and who are the people that need to be a part of that, whatever I'm working on. And with all the things I've been seeing, like obviously being at home, I've enjoyed the fact that I've been at home and been present because 2021, I'm going to be all over the place. And I've just enjoyed just being with my son and my wife. And for us to have, he's 3, but to even just see him grow and develop and just reimagine what type of life or world that I want to see him have once he grows up. Just to answer your question, like to make it plain, I'm just tired of all the shit. Just quite frank, like I'm just tired of it. I mean, I give an example today. I said the Centennial Commission was a sponsor for Fire in Little Africa, and I said like, hey, like why isn't Senator Langford removed from the Centennial Commission? And no one, they're saying like this is a non-partisan situation. And I'm like, there's no such fucking thing as bipartisan or nonpartisanship when it comes to race. Like you're either with us or you're against us. And so what I've been doing is I see it, and I see it locally, even with the mayoral election. I voted for Greg Robertson. Greg had me going to people's houses. I've never like been on a street team and knocking on people's doors and getting people excited. Like he was someone I truly believed in. And I'm seeing all these things, and I'm just like, I want to make sure that Fire Little Africa's brand is in alignment with everything that's going on racially, whether in Tulsa or the nation. And if it doesn't fit what we have, I don't care who's in power or what money people have given. I could care less. It's about the 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 alignment and the values that we represent. And a lot of people will have a lot of pushback with that, but I don't care. Like I'm not here to like make people happy, or in the words of Derek Bell with critical race theory, I'm not here in relation to interest convergence. Like that has nothing to do with what I'm doing with this project. It has everything to do with people being happy and excited about the work we're doing and opening the access for people to live. Like we're surviving out here. No one is living. I'm just tired of it. I'm just fed up. I'm calling it out. I'm calling it what it is. It's white supremacy. And people are afraid to say these things, but I think that's the benefit of being Black. You can say what you want to say and not get away with it, and not get in trouble sometimes, especially when it comes to race. I'm just at a point where I'm just present in the moment. I'm just calling it what it is. I'm holding people accountable, and if people don't like it, then you don't have to be a part of it. It's just that simple.
Well, I don't know Chris's take on this, but I'm definitely on. I don't know if there's a hashtag yet for fire fire senator from commission. Like it's too long. Somebody out there workshop me the hashtag to get him off that commission, because I've never understood his ability to sort of play these roles when, if you looked at any of his actual policies, you could tell he was not really an ally of Black Oklahomans. But that's a separate podcast, really.
Who would have thought Senator Inhofe of the two would have been the most rational in this most recent situation?
It's insane.
So you are less than 2 years from finishing your PhD from the University of Oklahoma in higher education administration. So not just higher education, but the running of higher ed. And again, we're not going to super dive deep into your dissertation. Maybe we'll do that for like a bonus episode for the academic nerds out there. Because again, as someone who specifically did not want to get their PhD because I did not want to write this dissertation and go through all of the bullshit that is involved in getting it, I am both surprised and amazed that this dissertation was allowed and you were able to finish it, and it's fantastic. But there are some ideas in it that I thought would be interesting to talk about. And you mentioned one of them, which is like, people hear the term critical race theory or black critical theory?
Black critical theory, yep.
Can you define those two for us?
So critical race theory is the theorization on race. And in my dissertation, I use it as the foundation. Like everything that my dissertation around anti-Blackness centers around race. But it's what I argue is that it was limiting because it didn't focus on these other isms around sexism and classism and homophobia, transphobia. And so how do we talk about that in relation to Blackness? And so Black critical theory is a theorization of Blackness, and specifically talking about Blackness and how the body is perceived, and how we truly try to like reimagine how Blackness could be used in ways that elevates like Black people. So that's a distinction. It's just a kind of a continuation of critical race theory. It's just kind of like, hey, these are the gaps that we see. But it's a prime example of Fire in Little Africa. I mean, the foundation is critical race theory, and the agency is being placed with Black people to create this project. And it's just a beauty to see that a lot of times, people write about these things, they theorize, they create these methodological and theoretical frameworks, but to actually see it actualized, a tangible example, is truly where the work is at. So.
I mean, and I have to say, I'm impressed that you both finished the dissertation. Like, you wrote a very long dissertation and made an album at the same time. So
I actually have a quick little story to tell, if it's okay. You mentioned getting it passed. It actually didn't get passed originally. So I started my program 2015, 2017. A.D. Carson he's now a professor at University of Virginia. He was the first person to come out with a rap album dissertation, but it was his own dissertation. But he's a rapper, but I don't rap. I produce. And so I garnered individuals to be a part of my research study who did rap and make music. And I was excited about the opportunity. And my original chair said, I'm resigning. You are an immature doc student. You don't deserve to be here. This project is it's not it. Yeah, like able to overcome that and still get it passed in 4 years. It was truly a blessing. And then be able to see how it's being utilized, like with Fila, is truly a blessing. So just make sure I had to point that out.
I mean, I'm gonna link your full dissertation in the episode notes, because you won a Dissertation of the Year award. I didn't know there was an award for best dissertation.
Yes. Association for the Study of Higher Education. So it's a beautiful thing.
I knew there were probably stories about the difficulty in getting this PhD approved, because it's it's a system, it's a model that does not in any way align with how people or academics work these days. And yet we are forced to do this thing where we spend 5 to 8 years studying one thing.
I would even equate that experience to like people not speaking out about Senator Langford. People just like, oh, this is the status quo. This is what we do. And I also think there's a small piece of like, hey, let's just get through the centennial so we can show everyone like, hey, this is what we've been doing. And it's like, I'm not with that. So, but yeah, dissertation was a rough experience, but here we are.
And speaking about Langford, I know I think it was Nehemiah in his article was mentioned that, he doesn't want to see these politicians stay on the commission and then use that for future political gain. Be like, look, I'm great at race relations. I was on this commission. I think he said the commoditization of Blackness or something close to that. And yeah, I mean, it is a real concern with some of the people who are on the commission.
Yeah, it's like, it's obviously not the massacre, but I mean, it's like history is repeating itself over and over again. I even had conversations about the tourism dollars for the Greenwood Rising. We don't know if those dollars are going back to the Black community. This is a huge red flag, and he definitely needs to be off the commission. And it really just begs the question about the commission, like the fact that you're allowing this. And like I said, like I know people, I have relationships with these people on the commission. I'm holding them accountable. Like it is what it is. So yeah, like it's definitely the commodification of Blackness, of Black labor, and we've seen it time and time again. And I'm hoping that things will change with the commission. But as far as Fire in Little Africa, like if it comes down to that, like we don't need them. And that's on the record.
Listen, I've made it very clear that I've never trusted Senator Langford, mostly because his voice does not match his appearance, and it's incredibly off-putting. Like, his voice should not be that deep. Something's wrong. He is some sort of robot, and don't trust him.
I like this podcast. I like it a lot.
Listen, as I tell everyone, Chris and I are two very unserious people who like talking about serious things. Let's talk about the centennial and what its goal should be versus what it looks like its goal is going to be, which is we don't want it to just be an examination of what happened 100 years ago. We want it to be a conversation and sort of policy changing starter conversation about how the way the Black community was treated then till now has not changed that much. And there are still very specific things that are challenging for, I would say, multiple minority groups in Tulsa. And that's what this should be about, because the massacre is not a flash in the pan, happened for no reason sort of event. It was a culmination of a series of things.
Yeah, and I would even shout out to Dr. Demario Solomon Simmons and Tiffany Crutcher and others, Reverend Turner. The lawsuit is where I immediately thought about as you were talking. They're fighting for reparations, and rightfully so. And I think that should be the conversation on the fact that, to my knowledge, the commission is not supporting that. Showing me like people are saying this is not a nonpartisan, issue, but like politics is obviously embedded in what's happening. It should be about this lawsuit and supporting the Black community. It should be about the tourism dollars that should be going to the Black businesses. It should be about the Greenwood Arts Project and all these community people. I believe have over 100 events or ideas that they planned. It should be about Fine Little Africa and the artists and what they're doing. But it's not. It's about a building that obviously is going to have a lot of influence for sure, but there's a lot of things that are happening in this culture and that are not being told. And it's just unfortunate. And I have to be remiss if I didn't say, like, I question if the ancestors are proud of what's going to be coming down the pipeline in May. And I hope things will change around eventually. But yeah, it's just unfortunate to know that people are allowing their egos and their political games or whatever you want to call it to get in the way of truly maximizing this opportunity of having the lights on Tulsa. And I think more than anything, Fire Little Africa will be that beacon of hope where it's like, you know what, all this other shit is not where it needs to be. But damn, this Fire Little Africa is doing exactly what it is a. I'm not even saying it just because it's me and I'm overseeing it. Like, it is a true body of communal work. Like, people are truly coming together and putting egos aside and like, yo, let's make this the best moment that we can. And it's unfortunate that I don't see that through and through, but it is what it is sometimes. And I'm at this point, I'm like, what can I control? What do I have the ability to do? Like, how much leverage do I have or cultural wealth do I have to make things work? And if people are not willing to move out the way, then I'll just focus on FILA and make it the best entity product that people will see. And I truly believe once we get the ball rolling, people will see exactly what we're trying to do.
Well, and it's new. You're creating new art to celebrate a past community that also had that energy and that spark. And I feel like that is better than talking about just history and dates and numbers and arguing over whether it's a bomb or an incendiary device, and like talking about like, what do we do with this cultural memory now, and how do you rebuild a community that can't be rebuilt now because there's a ginormous college campus there, right? Like, what do we do as a city? Like, you can use this opportunity to yell at our white listeners. Like, this is what we do every episode. It's mostly Chris and I complaining about our fellow white people.
So there's two things with that. One is this project is a time capsule. And I actually texted Steph Simon earlier today. I'm like, man, the story is being written. Like, we're writing the story. Every day I wake up, it's like, wow, this is another like point that I can put in this narrative, which is truly grateful, because I'm always been a person like, oh, this is cool, but what do I need to think about moving forward? But like, to truly see it unfolding is great. To go back to your comment about white folks, it's just, hey, you have the resources, you have the connections, you have the money, support us, and then get out the way. We will give you brand recognition and all those great things, but like, don't tell us what we need to do. Don't tell us how it needs to look. Don't tell us how it needs to sound. And I always say this, the hip hop always gets a bad rep because of it's loud and it's vulgar, and it's like, I always, negate that with the language is unsettling because the history has been unsettled. So until white folks like settle this, whether through reparations or through support and moving out the way, then you're gonna keep getting the same amount of loud and non-censored language within hip hop. It's not going to change until the powers that be change. So that's what I would say. Like, this is not saying we hate white people. This is not I even said it in the documentary. This is not a we hate white people. It is a love for blackness and holding people accountable who always want credit for things. And it's just like we don't care about the credit. We care about the work. And as long as you have those same sensibilities, then everything else will take care of itself. So, that's what I would say to the listeners.
Yeah, the discussion around reparations to me has always been interesting because, I mean, you can obviously point, and it's a fact that wealth was destroyed, and we know that wealth grows over time. So you basically set back an entire community. There's not even really a discussion about that. That's what happened. And two, it's not like people are going to go around and take money out of each person's house. It's not like people are going to come in and say, well, I get your car because of what your ancestors did. No, I mean, reparations is about giving people back what was stolen from them. And to me, that's what's always, it's like people feel like if somebody else is getting something, then they're losing something. They can't get past that. I don't know if it's that or if they just don't want to admit to themselves that something bad happened. And even if they didn't directly contribute to it, they're still benefiting from it today.
It makes absolutely no sense that people think they're going to lose something. Primarily because, I don't see too many white people in the Greenwood district area or on the north side. So it's like, what are we taking from you? We just want back what was ours. It makes absolutely no sense. And with everything that happened at the Capitol last week, you really can't have conversation with folks who don't see Black humanity, like truly. I talk about it all the time. Like, I have a PhD and I've reached the pinnacle of education, but yet I will be killed quicker than you all would be. And that's just a part of what we're talking about. So to answer your question, like it makes absolutely no sense. And I don't know what else to say about it. It's just really stupid, to be honest.
Part of me, when looking at the pictures and the videos of the attempted insurrection, part of my mind was almost not calmed, but I kind of smirked when there was a combination of both Confederate flags, which I expected, and then a plethora of like Holocaust-related merch people were wearing. And it kind of almost made me like, I'm like, all right, the hate hasn't changed. Like they're still hating the same 2 to 3 groups. And I don't have to pretend to think that people who hate one group might not hate the other. Like my worldview and my understanding of racism, anti-Semitism, and general hatred is still pretty accurate. I was weirdly soothed by that.
I think one of the reasons to me it felt that I had a similar reaction as you, Jesse, is that it kind of made it to where it told us again what we already know is that appeasement doesn't work. I mean, we don't need to sit here and listen to people's side of the story that are going to do stuff like that. We don't need to sit here and say we need to walk in their shoes and figure. No, that we tried that for 200 years. It doesn't work. Okay. It's time for us to stop trying to appease people who hate everyone and hate anything that makes the country better. I mean, it's just true. I mean,
yeah,
I'm sorry. It doesn't work anymore.
We are recording this on January 11th of 2020, 4-ish months away from the event, the centennial. What does Fire in Little Africa have planned for these months where no matter what you think about how the commemoration's happening, attention's going to be on Tulsa. So this is the best time for you and this project to make sure you are seen. So what's the plan for the next couple months?
So the podcast, the documentary, the album, even having some national artists potentially on this project was going to be really dope. So that's the news, and we're really looking forward to working with them.
I just hope you're keeping lots of memorabilia and stuff like that for in a few decades when we have the Fire in Little Africa Center opening up. We want plenty of archives for that too.
Since you mentioned that, we've been talking about a time capsule that we'll do when the album is released, to where not only the artists but community individuals can come and put stuff into the capsule. And I think we're going to try to talk to the Greenwood Rising to have a space available to where we can bury that. And in the next 100 years, 21, that's crazy to say, we will have it to where we would want people to pull that stuff back up and share it with the next generation. So make it plain, like this is not an idea. It's a legacy project / movement that we really want people to feel like they're a part of Fila for sure.
Let us know how people can stay connected, follow you, follow Fire in Little Africa. So whatever you got left, throw it at us.
FireInLittleAfrica.com. I mean, our IG at Fire in Little Africa. We have a link tree link on our Instagram with all of our articles from the Grammys, Rolling Stone, podcasts, playlists. I mean, you name it, everything is there. Spotify. I think we're like 41 episodes within our podcast now. Looking to have some national people on the podcast for sure. So yeah, if you want to support us, we have a donate link on our website. I think it's FireInLittleAfrica.com/donate. And it is a Tulsa Community Foundation fund that we set up. It's a hip hop educational fund where those funds will go towards a fund where artists after Fila can apply for those funds for production, anything that they need in regards to their art. So truly trying to give back to the artists. So if you want to donate, you want to support Fire in Little Africa, please do that. We have merch. So
listen, I'm going to buy one of these hoodies. So
for sure. So yeah, it's shout out to Trey Thaxton with Greenwood Ave, who developed all the marketing for that. It's just truly, we would love everyone's support. This is a communal project, and I think once people grasp that this was organized by local people, I think I would equate Fire in Little Africa to what the great work that Stacey Abrams did in Georgia. Like it truly is like people just putting their heads together and saying, hey, we want to see something different, and how do we make that happen? So truly support Fire in Little Africa, and you can follow me on Instagram too. I'm at Dr. View, DRVIEW1 as well. And if you have any questions, let me know.
What have you been doing when you haven't been working on Fire in Little Africa to sort of just like not worry about your work or the world? Like Chris and I are both big pop culture nerds, so we always ask people like, what has been your pop culture comfort food? Like, are you watching cooking shows? Are you watching people forge knives, as one of our previous guests did? What are you watching or playing or doing to relax? Yeah.
Any spare time that I have, if I'm not, playing with my son, we're not reading a book, or if he's a big Avengers fan. I mean, he loves them all. He loves them all. If I'm not playing with him, if I'm not watching something on Netflix with my wife, like I'm truly just trying to like keep myself grounded in creating. And so I'm a big sample heavy type of producer, big on like 70s funk, soul. Actually, my favorite artist is a poet. It's Gil Scott-Heron. He's my favorite artist, as well as Roy Ayers and Bobby Humphrey. These are all flute players and musicians. Like these are people that Quincy Jones. I mean, these are people that I thoroughly love to learn and listen from. So I'm always trying to just create, make music. I think I live a boring life. Like I'm just gonna be honest.
You did say that you watch things with your wife on Netflix. So what are those things?
We watched, is it Queen's Gambit?
Yes.
We watched that.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen, we're big on Power, big on For Life. It's on Grey's Anatomy. Like we've oh my gosh, we've watched all the seasons. I try not to get too into it because I'll get emotional with certain people. I feel like this is probably Grey's time to let it go. I think she's almost died at least 5 times in Grey's Anatomy. I think it's her time to go. And those are just a couple things that we watch for sure. But like I said, I live a boring life. I go to the gym like 5 a.m. and I'm working, going to the studio at night, and I'm doing it all over again. So that's kind of what I do.
Thank you all for listening to our interview with Dr. View. Please make sure to follow Fire in Little Africa, or Fila, on Instagram and on Facebook, and check out their sort of documentary / talk at the Sundance Film Festival that the Circle Cinema is doing.
Also look for them on Spotify.
Thank you, Chris, who's always here on these outros books every 5 episodes.
You're welcome.
If anyone is actually still listening to this episode and is in the marketing department of their company and you're looking at a way to give back to your community, Pod for Good is always looking for sponsors. If you are actually interested in that, you can email me at jesse.ulrich@rand9.com. And what seems like a never-ending announcement to the city of Broken Arrow. Please get your shit together. Tulsa, get it done. And everyone out there, please, wear a mask.